There's a quote from both my books. I've used it, and I came up with it, that there is no purpose without transformation. There is no transformation without purpose. And so I think that purpose is that sort of segue into when we begin a new transformation in our life. The more purpose we take on and create in our moments, instead of just like the purpose of life, we create purpose intentionally in our actions within the moments. Then we feel better. Like you said, you set those small goals, set off dopamine and serotonin, nice little cocktails that help us stabilize mood and all these things. So
all right, everybody, welcome back to the Quiet Riot Show. Today's episode is going to be really fun, and we've been trying to plan this episode for a while now, and I'm very happy that we managed to align our schedules for today. It's an exciting one. Before we introduce our guest, I just will have a question for you, Tim.
Yeah.
Did you listen to Jacob's episode? Because you said you will.
Not yet.
No. I should have put money on it. I knew you're not going to do it.
It doesn't mean I won't. It means I haven't yet.
You said that you're going to listen to it before the next recording, so...
Fuck, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I did say that. Shit. Okay.
So you owe me $500.
500?
Yeah, that's what we decided.
I don't remember that.
Well...
I guess if I ever listen to the show, I'd probably remember if I did or didn't commit to that.
I know, yeah.
Fine, I'll send you $500.
Okay, but let's introduce our guest.
Sure, go for it.
So today we have the pleasure of having Jason McLean in our studio, who's a big mental health advocate.
Yeah, mental health.
Mental health, and you're also an author for 2 amazing books.
Thank you.
And just the work that you mentioned that you do, and I've been following your reels and everything. There's lots, actually. I want to ask you about certain things. So welcome here to the Quiet Riot Show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I know we've been connecting back and forth for a few months now.
Yeah.
Basically ever since I saw Graham on the show, who I'm friends with, and I've always thought was a really cool guy. I remember seeing that and said, I want to be a part of that. I really like the way you guys talk, the formatting. I love the studio.
Thank you.
And so I mean, it's been a few months planning here for sure, and
life's busy, so we
that's
get
okay.
It, yeah.
Well, and you've had just before the show, and we'll get into some of that. But you got a lot of shit going on.
I do,
which is great.
I'm a busy bee.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah, thank you.
Being bored sucks. Are you awful at being bored too, like me?
You know what? I can do it once in a while, but I don't really find boredom. Because I can find something. I don't always have to be doing something, but I can be comfortable in the moment enough that there's no boredom involved.
Yeah, okay, fair.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. I don't beat myself up if all of a sudden I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to watch an episode of The Mandalorian or, something I like, or geek out on an X-Men movie or something, right? Yeah. Like, so I don't always have to be, running or in the gym or climbing trees in nature or writing, books to feel, so.
Have you always been that person?
No.
Okay.
No, I was always running, man. I was always on the run. Most of my life, like I could never be home. I always had to be out. I always had to be seen. I always had to. I couldn't be alone with my thoughts and the things that haunted me. Right. So I constantly was. I got to go walk in the mall. I got to be places where there's other people and constantly distract myself. Yeah. So always on the run. And it's only been in the last handful of years, probably since about 2019-ish, 2020, that I've learned how to become very comfortable, in my skin, which then makes it easier to become comfortable in your surroundings. Yeah. And now I'm like a homebody. It's so weird. Like I can't wait to just get home and like not be anywhere else.
Yeah.
So yeah. So
I struggle with that.
Yeah.
I like to keep my mind distracted.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't come as far as you are yet.
Yeah.
Getting closer, getting married and having a child, and that may definitely force that hand a little bit.
For sure.
Yeah.
But I love to be distracted.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I haven't hit sort of peaceful in myself yet.
I find that if your mind is distracted, then you almost like you just don't focus on the negativity. You just focus on living in the moment, right?
Sure.
And because many times where you just tend to be on your own with your own thoughts, then you just start taking a deep dive.
I'm not there yet.
Yeah,
I would say I've got demons I haven't addressed yet. I think some I have.
I know you have demons.
I think everybody who listens to this show probably knows I do, but I'm not quite there yet.
Yeah.
But it's something. I would actually, maybe today we'll talk about how you got there, and maybe that'll help me understand some challenges for myself. I'm going to say, aside from the challenge that I was supposed to listen to the episode with Jacob, let's ignore that one.
Okay.
I blew it on that one, but it's all. I want to try again.
You can redeem yourself.
I would like you to leave me after this show, because we're going to talk openly, with a challenge.
Sure.
Oh, nice. Yeah. That's a good
and
one.
him too.
Sure, yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's a reasonable thing. I think I would like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You seem to have your shit together.
I
do
some
for the
days,
most part.
some
But
days.
mentally, I wouldn't say I'm as peaceful as I could or should be. So let's do that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sounds good.
absolutely.
Are you cool with that?
100%.
Awesome. Good.
Awesome. So let's do our check-in then. All right, Timothy.
Check in.
Yeah.
I'm actually feeling pretty good.
I was not normal.
No, I would say I have a sinus infection right now, which is clouding my mind in physical ways, but I would say I'm a recovering 7.
Okay.
So I'm feeling good, actually. Getting settled into my new role, my new job, and my career is always such a huge portion of my life. Like I don't half in anything.
Yeah.
So my new career, it's like, okay, 100 miles an hour, 100 meters deep, let's fucking go.
Yeah.
And that's exciting for me, and I enjoy that. That gives me a lot of fulfillment.
You've been like that
and
with your previous job too.
I've always been like that. It's just probably how I've been raised and what I'm like. But it's exhausting, but gives me, on one front, and on the other side, gives me so much energy and so much fulfillment. And so I feel very full. I feel very energized by it. So I'm going to say I'm a sinus infection 7.
Okay, yeah. No, it's nice to see you lately. You've been higher. For a long period of time, you were hovering around 4 to 6.
Yep.
And lately, you've been higher, which is unusual to
purpose. I'm so rewarded by feeling purpose and challenge, and so I think when things get stagnant, I get low.
Yeah,
and which is maybe common with a lot of people.
100%.
And I think it's so. I just had my therapy session this week, and which was very much needed for me. But we talked about that. There's that the purpose that you're talking about, or like just feeling. Not necessarily needed, but knowing that you're doing something good towards a goal, right? That is such a good impact on your own well-being, because if you're working hard and there's no results, well,
if I'm floating in nothingness, it's so bad.
So
it just gets so fucking bad for me. So I'm not floating in nothingness these days. I know it's completely the opposite.
I haven't seen you in like a week and a half.
I know, which is unusual for us.
I'm like, oh no, I missed him.
Yeah.
Even my wife was like, do you need to go see Tim because you're feeling kind of down? I'm like, I messaged him already.
Nice.
How about you?
Oh God. I'm doing better than 2 days ago. 2 days ago, I was like a 3. I'm about a 5 now because
I'm here.
Yes, for sure. No, it's been a really tough week for me. I don't know what really happened, but I had my therapy session, which I felt good, but also there was a lot of questions that were asked during that session. A lot of questions were asked towards me, and I didn't know how to answer them. And there's a decision that I have to make about my career soon, and that has a big impact on me, because it's a scary situation to walk away from a steady job and dive into something new, right? And on top of that, I had 2 nights that I don't know what happened, but I had one of those dreams where I could hear the TV in the background, but I was also dreaming, and I kept waking up literally to the minute every half an hour. And so the first night, I had that shitty night, and then woke up, went to work, go the whole day, come home, do the stuff at home, and my everyday life, and then figured it's going to be good. I get a good night's sleep, went to bed early, woke up 2 hours later, and then same thing happening. And finally, like, I had to literally call into work because I'm just like, I almost fell off the stairs because I was so groggy. I felt drunk. I felt like I wouldn't be able to drive. So I'm like, nope. And I slept like half a day. Finally caught up on sleep a little bit. So that's feeling better that I had that energy and managed to do some cleaning, which, you know, comes with a reward.
Yeah.
And so it's feeling better, but it's just thinking about, there's a lot on my mind that I'm trying to figure out how things are going to be. And so a 5. Yeah.
Okay.
Jason,
how
about yourself?
Well, first
us with a 10.
Yeah, he's gonna 11.
First, I really like that you guys do this. First, I want to say I think it's cool, and I appreciate the honesty about it. You know, when I check in with a lot of people, it's very common that they tell me what I want to hear versus what they're truly feeling. So I think this is a really nice leadership by example practice you guys are doing here. So very cool. I would say that I would come in probably a strong 9.5. And
that's awesome.
But you know, I work my ass off to get that. And you know, we were speaking a little bit about that before, but what I really liked what you talked about in your summary was about purpose. And I'm a huge believer in purpose drives away depression, purpose drives away anxiety, purpose drives away the demons. And it can sort of be a distraction, but it can also be a really powerful weapon that creates peace in our lives. And there's a quote from both my books. I've used it, and I came up with it, that there is no purpose without transformation. There is no transformation without purpose. And so I think that purpose is that sort of segue into when we begin a new transformation in our life. The more purpose we take on and create in our moments, instead of just like the purpose of life, you know, we create purpose intentionally in our actions within the moments, then we feel better. Like you said, you set those small goals, you know, you set off dopamine and serotonin, you know, nice little cocktails that help us stabilize mood and all these things. So I really like that.
Not these cocktails. He's talking about different ones.
Those ones do the opposite, but
okay.
I won't say anything too bad about that stuff. So
it's okay. We don't care.
Yeah,
you
fair
can
enough.
if you want.
No, it's all good.
You're allowed to say anything you want.
Yeah,
here.
fair.
You can't offend this.
Yeah. No, that's all good. It's all good. I would never want to anyway. But yeah, 9.5. Like, you know what? I get up every day early. I do the same routines. Like, I get up, I get ready, I go to the gym, I go with my wife, so we work out, not together, but at the same time. We have coffee and then breakfast together every morning, and we talk about things, and then I start working immediately on different projects that I'm involving myself in or creating for myself to help other people with mental health. And you know, I talk a lot about momentum in my books and when I speak and stuff, and this 9.5 is carried through by momentum for what I've put in for the week. And, you know, I would say a 10, but this weather has knocked me back about a 0.5 because I was super excited to get out to my seasonal site and get out to the lake and do all these things. You know, like we were saying, it was literally 38 above, you know, 2 days ago or 3 days ago. And now, you know, you have to have a waterproof parka on before you head out, right?
Well, it's supposed to be like +1 tomorrow night.
Yeah, so that's great. Not, so that knocked me back from a 10, but, you know, all in all, I do my best to hover within a higher number, and I do check in with myself every day. And so again, I just think it's so cool that you guys do this. And you know, I've had days where obviously it's way lower. You know, I'm not immune to life. Life is hard, and you know, I've had days where, you know, I'm just like, fuck everything and nothing's working out, and I want to fight a tree, but I love trees, so I won't fight a tree, right? So it's just like, what do I do here? You know, and generally I find that momentum helps keep that push going in the positive, and we have to create it for ourselves and all that. But yeah, I appreciate the check-in. This is cool.
It's a system that has worked really well A, for us on the show, B, for my relationship with my wife.
Same here,
I don't know how many, I talk about this fucking all the time, but we always have new people sitting here. But like, it's something me and my wife came up with because I'm not the most expressive in my emotions or my feelings. I'm not usually one to voluntarily offer them up.
Right.
Except in this room, which is funny in its own way.
That's your sanctuary.
Probably because I get to have a microphone, which I always like. So
you should carry a mic with you all the time.
If I just had a microphone with me all the time, I'd tell everybody my feelings. And everyone would fucking hate me. But we use it in our relationship, in our marriage, and it's a game changer for our marriage. Just for those quick check-in. Hey, where are you at? And I'm a 3 and she's a 8.
Sure.
Then she knows like, okay, I need to love on you a little bit harder right now. And like, if you don't want to talk about it, no problem, but at least I know where you're at.
Yeah.
Well,
it makes a big difference for us, like
100%.
Daily, weekly.
Yeah.
We really make a point to do it often.
It's amazing.
Yeah, we talked about it our last episode that like sometimes we need to like vent and let things off our chest. And like, so now this check-in helped me actually become a better communicator with my wife. We don't necessarily check in with the number system, but at least like, she'll ask me like, hey, what's wrong? What's going on? And then I'm like, oh, sorry, this is why I'm feeling this way because something's happening, right? So it's kind of the same way, and it's been getting better. Also, it helped me to not overreact right away, but like even check myself like, shit, okay, I'm not feeling good because of this or that, or this is why I'm reacting a little more poorly to my kids or whatever. And so it's, I love it. Yeah,
I think it offers you that quick pause, right?
Yeah.
Where if you're getting into an anxious state or you're starting to maybe spiral backwards into more something depressed, all of a sudden you do that quick, like, hold on, let's take the feelings away and look at the facts.
Yeah.
And that's really important in mental health healing and recovery is the facts.
Yeah.
Because we tell ourselves all kinds of stories, and I was the grandmaster wizard of like creating the most false narratives in my mind when I wanted to spiral out about something, right? And then I'm in a state of panic attack, or I wanted to, all the things. And I think that what you're saying is this incredible thing where you're able to pause, stop everything for a moment, right, and do a reevaluation. Take a quick moral inventory and then look at those facts and be like, okay, maybe I'm kind of overreacting here, or maybe I'm tired, or this and this and these things are all composed into this stack of things that are in my way right now. So it's cool. I like it.
Well, and I think we tend to be our own worst enemies when it comes to that.
Of course we are.
Like we are by far our own worst enemies, and so I like that. You take stock in a quick second. Well, your brain has the ability to fuck you around a lot. It also has the ability to correct very quickly. And so I think taking that quick inventory, you called it, I think, a moral inventory, which I love. I think that's a great phrase. It really gives you pause and lets you, and you can do it in seconds.
Absolutely.
And we probably naturally do it a lot. Do you consciously do it all the time throughout the day? Like,
I do have some conscious practices that I do throughout the day. Like I definitely, when I wake up, I sit in complete darkness for about 10-15 minutes.
Okay.
And I get my thoughts together, and I go through, all the things that I want to give to, the universe, and like the positive energy of what I'm going to contribute to the day. I wake up every day with the philosophy that every time I wake up is a new life. So I look at it from that perspective. And so I go through those things every day, and then I kind of check my head, get my mind set. Mindset, it's a funny thing, everybody uses it, but I really truly set my mind up for what I'm going to do that day and what I want to accomplish. And then throughout the day, I'm a big list guy, so if I'm listless, I'm lost, I'm all over the place. So
you and me both.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are, right? And I have this such great satisfaction of like writing things down and crossing it off. Like I'll get to the point where like brush my teeth and like I just add things.
I don't even I tried using like computer and phone lists. I hate them.
It doesn't work.
My book, I have a book always with me, always. Yeah. And everything's a list. And man, going like this,
it's so good.
Just feels so good.
Yeah, see, I've done that for a little bit, and then I stopped, and I've done it again and stopped. So I'm not there yet, but like I liked when I was able to scratch. I was like, holy shit, this is amazing.
And what I did, you know what, I took that list thing and I took it to the next step, and I called it a battle plan.
Oh, okay.
And in my first book, One Drop of Water, this is sort of one of the premise for like my recovery from a suicide attempt and on. And I created this battle plan because I looked at it like I'm waging war against, you know, the demons in my head. I'm going to fight for my life. And so I took this like militant, you know, approach to it where it was very black and white. There was no shades of gray. And it was like, and even though it was just really a list of the things I wanted to accomplish in the day, because I kind of fortified it with like these, you know, bigger, more bold captions and different things like that, I found it super effective. And I still do that. But, also through the day, one of the things I do is if I start finding myself, you know, drifting in a different direction than I want to be, which is really, you know, for us humans, it happens really quickly, right? You know, someone cuts us off in traffic and all of a sudden I'm a serial killer, right? I'm ready to I'm going to hunt this person down. I'm going to be sitting in their house, like making a sandwich late at night, waiting for them to come home, like, you know, just crazy stuff. And so I have to check in with myself once in a while and go like, really, man? And it's funny, like I talk with you know, some people that I coach with mental health, and I say, like, you know, like, just say that to yourself. Go, really, man? And a lot of times, again, it's that little click reset where you're like, wow, you know, and you look at the almost like the reflection of your behavior, and you're just like, oh, wow, you know, I'm better than this. You know what I mean? Still mad. I'm still chasing the guy that cut me off.
But at least you're aware.
But now I don't want to kill them anymore, right? So
I mean, that's something.
Positive steps, right? And then, you know, we have to learn how to, you know, accept those little tiny steps as little miracles, because sometimes they are. You know,
they are.
I always, every time someone talks about taking small steps, and this is something that I actually use in my head, which is hilarious to me, but I think of that movie What About Bob?
Yep. Great movie.
I've seen
with
that one.
Bill Murray.
Great movie.
And it's baby steps. He does this baby steps thing, and it's so fucking funny, but there's so much truth to it. And like, I think about that every time. I'm like, just one thing, man. Just look at your list and like, it's all just baby steps. Just one thing and then the next thing. And if you haven't seen it, you should really watch it.
I will.
Anyone who hasn't seen it should watch it.
Yeah, it's 100% one of the best Bill Murray movies ever.
And there's so much truth to his process in that movie. It's really funny.
Nice.
Anyways, sorry, I didn't want to drift off there, but that is something that like helps me think about it. And then I laugh because it's a really funny movie, and like, it takes some of that heaviness away when I think about it in those terms, and it's like, I'm reminded of those scenes that I've seen where it's just so ridiculous, but it's just like, oh, none of this is that serious. Like, everything's going to be fine.
My favorite scene in that is when he asks Bob to open up, and Bob is Bill Murray, and he's just like, well, I see a log, a dog, and a frog, a noodle, a doodle, and a poodle. Like, he's just out of his, like, just anything, like, just, and Richard Dreyfuss is this, you know, renowned author and therapist, psychiatrist, and he can't crack this guy, and it's all by accident, and it is a beautiful, beautiful movie. It's so good.
Nice.
So
I'll definitely watch that. So I want to touch on your books. I don't want to get into deep dive, because what we want our listeners to buy your book and actually read it.
Well, thanks.
But what made you actually write a book? And your first book, when did you release it?
So my first book is called One Drop of Water, and I released it, I believe, in September of 2020 or 21.
Okay.
You know, I've battled depression and addiction and anxiety my whole life, and PTSD and stuff. And like I said earlier, you know, I've always been on the run and never faced any of these things. And I continued just to distract myself and disguise myself and, you know, hide in populated places, even though I felt totally alone, and never really attempt to understand how to heal myself or take any accountability for my role within, you know, the realm of my mental health. And so in 2019, I had a brand new firearm. I loaded it, took out, disengaged the safety, put it in my mouth, and pulled the trigger with all intent to blow my brains out and end my life. And I'm terrified of death. I still am. I didn't want to. I didn't want to hurt myself. I didn't want to die. I was so scared, but I just wanted to end the pain and the suffering, the loneliness that I had just felt my entire life. I've never really felt like I fit in anywhere because I just didn't know who I was. And so the gun jammed, and with a brand new firearm, the odds of that are like 1 in a million and change or something like that. A used one is about 1 in 106,000. And so, obviously God or the universe or Mother Nature or whatever you want to believe had intention for me. And so I struggled because failure was one of the driving components that led me to my suicide attempt, and then I ended up failing in that. Yeah. And I was like, here's a very ironic slap in the face from the universe. I'm like, ha ha ha. And but for the few months after that, I was really lost, and I was angry that I didn't die, but at the same time I was snapped back into reality where I was like, oh my god, I could have died. Like I was so delusional in my depression, and I started writing everything that just came out of me. I decided I was going to fight for my life, and I immersed myself in so much learning. I was like watching every even like cheesy things from The Rock doing motivational things to Mother Teresa, to reading every kind of different book and podcast, and I just wanted to consume as much positive stuff. And I learned a lot of stuff from things that were awful and negative and shitty, but and then I started writing, and one day, I've always wanted to be an author my entire life. I was this big tough guy, smashing my way through life and for forever and never knowing who I was, but I always had this voice in me that was like, write, like you were a writer, and tell your story. And so I did that. I wrote this book, and it took me about a year to write. I've never written a book before, no idea how to do it or what to do it, and edited it, put it together, and put it out to the world. And I will say that it was like one of the most terrifying but exhilarating feelings in the world, because I published it through Amazon and Kindle. And so basically I done all the editing, the manuscript's done, and all I had to do now is approved, is just hit publish, right? And then it goes live to the world. Yeah. And I remember sitting there, and I was with my girlfriend, who's my fiance, my wife now, and just this horrifying feeling, but at the same time so excited. And I had this dream and vision and thing that I was going to change the world, that this book was going to help people that were struggling like I was, help them find their way, even if it's for that day, and just to get them past the suicidal thoughts, or to get them out of about a depression or crippling anxiety, whatever it was, eating disorders, whatever it is. Yeah. And so I published it and put it out, and it just lit up, man, like fireworks in a very dark sky of the mental health world. And it was mind-blowing. There's a statistic that says that most authors will sell maybe 50 books of their book, 50 copies, and I did more than that in the first day, by far. Yeah, I had, I did a pretty good job promoting it, and I have a good friend base. I've met so many people, right? And I think people have always been silently cheering me on from the background, because they knew I was better than I was. Yeah. They, being around me could be a lot of different things. I was a bit of a chameleon for sure. So, but a lot of people, I think, just wanted to see the best of me come through, and this certainly helped that. And the book was very well received, and it did well on all of the for statistics and top selling and this and that. That was great. But for me, the real reward and the badge of honor that I wear from that first book is that I talked to thousands of people about their mental health, and I had people telling me things like, "Your book saved my life. Your book changed my life."
The first time that happens must be pretty eye-opening,
dude. I tears.
Now maybe it probably saved yours too.
100%. I wrote both these books for me first.
Yeah,
and to be talking to a mom that shared my book with her daughter, who's been struggling with these things as a teenager and as a young adult, and she's like, finally she resonated with this, because I don't talk like a textbook. I mean, I've studied probably more than most people that have degrees, and I continue to expand my knowledge base, but it was this really fascinating to connect with so many people, and my social media started to grow, and then I was on the news, and I started speaking in front of all these things, and all these great opportunities happened. And things were good, and the beautiful part about it was I got to relive the strategies, the insights, and the things that I share in my first book, One Drop of Water, and I was living them, and things were going pretty good. But then in 2022, my dad has been really sick for about almost 2 decades, and in the hospital like literally a dozen times a year, but he got diagnosed with stomach cancer, and within a month of that diagnosis he died.
I'm sorry.
And it was really tough. Like, he was my my superhero, my best friend, all the things that you want your dad to be. And he always will be and still is. And but I had started writing my second book, The Monarch Butterfly Effect, and things were clicking, things were going great. And then so he got sick and then died, and then dealing with that was so hard. I couldn't write. And then 3 weeks later, my wife's son, my stepson, his dad passed away of a fentanyl overdose. So it was really tough in our house. It was really dark. So I kind of had to switch my grieving to help him. And he's such a powerful, amazing young man. Like, this kid is a gift. Like, he is beyond his years, and so philosophical and kind. And this kid's seen the shit. Like, he should be on the opposite end of that. So, but
sounds like my situation with my stepdaughter.
Yeah. And so, I started writing again, I guess about 6-7 months later, and things were flowing. And I went for a ride on my Harley one night. It was in August, at the end of August, and I was ripping out on the perimeter to go to Birds Hill Park. And I was going about 110 clicks, just loving life and flying through the hot summer air. And they had done some road work on the perimeter and patched an area, and they didn't. They didn't.
Yeah, for those that are don't live in Manitoba, we have shitty roads.
The worst. So they had done a thing across the entire highway, 2 lanes of an asphalt patch, but they didn't smooth it out or flatten it. So essentially, at 110 kilometers an hour, I hit a speed bump about 7 inches tall.
Jesus Christ.
About 1.5 feet wide, and it was still soft. So I basically, when I went into it, I stuck into it. And my front end wobbled twice, like from side to side, and then basically snapped, catapulted me into the air, and then I rolled for 350 feet down the highway. Yeah, and for a while, my Harley was flipping over and over right behind me. I thought it was going to crush me.
Yeah. No kidding, yeah.
And it was crazy because when I launched off the bike, I'm going to die. Like, I understand physics very well. I'm going very fast. Yeah. Inertia is not my friend right now, and I'm about to hit concrete. Yeah. I was wearing a full face helmet. I wasn't protected my body. I was wearing just like a rolled up flannel shirt, t-shirt, jeans, boots. And but this voice in my head said, "You're not done yet." And it was my dad's voice. And I remember just thinking, it was like my whole life flashed in front of me. Sorry. Like in a millisecond, but it was like slow motion, but I can't explain unless you've ever been in one of these moments.
Well, they show it in the movies, right?
Yeah.
It is the slow motion where you're like flying.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, like, boom, life kicks in and everything is 100 miles an hour. And so I was lying on the highway, and I realized I'm alive. Yeah. So that I was happy about that, but I was terrified that I was going to be a quadriplegic, because there's so much like electric pain shooting from my spine. And when I flipped, that's the first I landed was on my heels and then my back, and then just started rolling and tumbling. And I will say that the most horrifying part of it was the noise my body was making as it was like flipping and flopping down. Like, it was just like this percussion that I'll never forget. It was just gross. So I'm lying there, and I'm just I'm so scared to like just try to move my toes or my hands, and I eventually did, and they moved, and then I was really pissed off because I'm like, you telling me I'm okay, like, after all that shit? And now I'm so I look down, and my arms are covered in blood, my legs covered in blood, my jeans are shredded, some of my tattoos are shredded to the right down, and this elbow's shattered out to here. This wrist is the wrong way, and all these things. And I was so mad. I just bought that Harley literally 28 days before, and I had been searching for this particular one for about a year and a half. Yeah,
there goes that.
Yeah, and so I was so mad. I'm looking for it, and it's like 50 feet off in the field, that blanketed the perimeter, and I had started to walk away from the crash site because I was in shock, obviously, and all these people, were there, and they're stopping me, and they called ambulances and all the things, and so, I was rushed into the HSC, and they had a surgery, like a trauma surgery, waiting for me because they thought I was in such severe shock, but my spine was broken or something, right? And so, they were quite astonished to see that wasn't the case after a bunch of CT scans and angiograms and all these different tests and X-rays, and I had some internal bleeding from my heart into my stomach that they had to monitor. And but I was able to walk out of the hospital,
Holy shit!
Yeah, on my own legs.
If there's ever a sign of you're not done yet, I think that's fucking it.
Yeah,
for sure.
Never mind the gun jamming.
Well, so it's like I've cheated death pretty strongly here. I don't want to. I'm like, I like where I'm at. Like I'm 2 for 2. I don't need to go 3 for 3. I'm cool.
We're gonna.
Yeah, exactly.
Good for you, but
usually say things come in threes, but we don't. Not in this case.
2's probably good.
Yeah, 2's good. Like this. Yeah, so. It was about a 3-4 month recovery physically and mentally, emotionally for sure. I had severe PTSD. I'd relived the accident over and over again in my mind and just freak out. And
now at this point, where were you at on your recovery journey? The new you that you were creating. How far along that path did you feel you were on when this happened?
Well, I was.
Are you well into it already?
Yeah, So my first book had come out. It's now about a year or two after that. I've worked through my dad's death. Obviously, I still, break down and cry about it still. But I was in a positive place with it.
You're a different person.
Yeah.
You were a new version of yourself you wanted to be.
Yeah, 100%.
You were more closer to it. Okay.
Yeah, and then so I was working on my second book and my next approach to helping more people with mental health. And so, with my dad dying and then this motorcycle accident and then the recovery I went through, it really provided a whole new thing for me to share with people, because going through the two hardest things, I didn't go back to drinking alcohol, I didn't go back to self-destructive behaviors, I didn't go back to depression, anxiety, doing all the things, anger, violence, all the things that I normally did my whole life. And so it became this really shining example of what I wanted to share with people for the next steps, saying this is what I did from when I attempted to take my life. I went through the two hardest fucking things in the world, and I stayed true to all my values, and I came out stronger in the end, and this I'm going to show you how. And so the Monarch Butterfly Effect is the testament of all of that. And there it is. And so the beautiful thing about that Monarch is my dad was a biker and all this stuff, but he loved gardening and he loved flowers and he loved hummingbirds and monarch butterflies. And when I had that accident, I was sitting at the highway and, after hearing my dad's voice, and I look out and there's a monarch butterfly flying right there. Yeah. And I'm just like...
That's your dad.
Yeah. I'm just like,
that is so real. I've heard so many stories where my friend's son passed away at the age of 17, and since that day, hummingbirds always around, and so that is so real.
So I got I had the monarch butterfly here, and then I got the ruby-throated hummingbird with my dad in the wings there, in the wind from the wings, and this way he's always with me and reminds me and all the things. But so this book, anyone that reads it's going to learn a lot about monarch butterflies, because what I've done is kind of taken the monarch butterfly's life cycle and use it as a metaphor for mental health, right? For the transformation and the metamorphosis of it. They go from an egg to a caterpillar to a chrysalis, and then merge the butterfly. So there's some really distinct stages in there. The egg would be sort of the awareness or the rebirth. You want to make the changes, you want to transform. The caterpillar is we're all consuming the information that you need to do it, discipline and then repeating the same things, creating the new habits. The chrysalis is, going through the dark period where you do the introspection and do the hard work, right? You know, you're doing the shadow work or the inner child work or whatever people like to call it these days. I just call it the real work, the hard work, the truth. And then you emerge this butterfly, and everybody thinks that's the easy part, but really the butterfly's life is very difficult, arduous, and it's a battle from the moment it emerges, right? So
it's beautiful.
It is,
but it's a lot of work.
Exactly, right? And you know, and so I really wanted to express, like, everybody wants to be the butterfly, but nobody wants to be the caterpillar and do the work, right? So I kind of took that as a metaphorical guide for to parallel within the books of my lived experiences, and come out with, you know, a bunch of what I think are very valuable insights and strategies to combat mental health, regardless of what the situation is, right? So,
well, thank you very much for bringing us a copy.
You're welcome.
I'm definitely I'm looking forward to reading it, and I'm not much of a reader.
Okay,
but I definitely going to read this because things that are interesting do interest me, right? And actually put in the work to it. So, where can people get your book?
So, my books are available on Amazon and Kindle. The Monarch Butterfly Effect is available on Audible, iTunes, and Amazon as well.
Did you narrate it yourself?
I did not. I'll tell you a really cool story, though. So, my first book, One Drop of Water, I did my best to narrate it, but it's a really emotional, powerful book. And, you know, when we're speaking like this, it's pretty easy, but when you're in a dark booth and you're trying to read and you go, or like this, or you're like this, your nose gets itchy, and then you think more, your nose is itchy, and then you're like, so itchy. Like every little, it's a redo, and I couldn't do it. And so this one, I wanted to get it out. So there's a company called ACX, and they're the sister company to Amazon Publishing, but they do their audiobook production.
Okay. Yep.
So I go on there, and you can kind of pick like what kind of narrator you want. So I want a masculine man, you know, I want someone that sounds like Batman or me, basically, right? And then you upload the manuscript, and then a section of it you want them to read, and they audition for you. So I had no idea what was going to happen, so I put this out there, and within 12 hours I have 38 men and 2 women, for some reason, even though I requested men only. Yep, whatever. So they, you know, send me their auditions, and they can also send like a little message email with it, you know, saying like, hey, you know, some of them are like, I've produced 475,000 audiobooks that have, you know, all been platinum sellers. And then other people were more real. And so I'm going through them all, and it's really funny because I had like dudes from like Texas, and I'm like, love it, but
that's pretty good.
Doesn't sound like me. You know? And so I had like some dude from like southern Georgia area, and I was like, this would be fun. But
were you trying to match it to your inner?
I wanted to be close to my voice.
Dialogue, like it
had to be close. So I narrowed it down to these 3 different gentlemen, and then I look at their notes, and one of the guys says to me, I had to do a double take because when I was reading this before I recorded it, you had mentioned the perimeter in Birdsall Park. He goes, I'm from Winnipeg. And so this is an American format, right? And so he's like, and my grandmother loves hummingbirds, and I'm like, done. I'm like, I messaged this guy.
There's a connection.
Yeah, his name's Dan McRae. Awesome dude. Can't give this guy enough props. I give him a deadline, and he got it done a week ahead of that.
I'm assuming since then you've built a relationship.
We've chatted.
And have you met him? Have you?
No, but you know, I'm going to for sure. I'm going to take him out for dinner and stuff. I just wanted, like, the audiobook just came out last week.
Oh, okay. So this is like,
I saw your post.
It just kind of takes, like, it's really weird how like the different production times happen. And so, you know, they rejected my cover art because it has to be a perfect square for Audible, and they can't have like borders, you know. So, oh my god,
hurdles that delay
and things
everything.
Again, I don't know how to do. So, I'm lucky again that, you know, Jordan, my wife, can do these things for me, and she'll let me have a temper tantrum first, you know, because it literally
get it out.
It belittles me to like
do your little thing, and then we'll fix it. I'll fix everything for you.
She gets some kicks out of that for sure.
Thank God for our wives.
Yeah,
my goodness.
I'd be lost without her. So
me too.
But and then so. Anyways, it's just so cool that, you know, it's a Winnipeg guy out of all these things. I never thought that would be possible. And so I didn't record. He did it, and he was great. He would send me like chapter by chapter, and I'd say, you know, this one, it sounds a little bit a touch robotic, and we just put it. But he was so great with, like, you know, he asked me, like, do you want me to put breaths in or pauses? And I'm like, let's make it human, man. Like, this is a powerful book, and like, I think people need that, you know, where all of a sudden it's like, it's a really heavy chapter and it's like, you know, and it'll make the reader or the listener go, too.
You know, feel real because it's a narrative. And now you're not reading it in your own, it's a narrative.
Yeah.
And so you want to follow and you don't want distractions from whatever it is you're feeling and whatever you intended people to feel how you felt in those moments, writing it, rereading it. I don't know how many times you've probably read it 500 times.
Yeah.
And rereading it, there's a certain emotion and feeling you're trying to communicate.
Yeah, I've actually cut myself off from reading it because anytime I read it, I'm like, I want to go back and edit it.
Yeah.
And
it's like me with every song I've ever recorded or written or had produced.
Yeah,
it's the same thing. It's like, if I listen to it, it's like, fuck, these 500 things.
Yeah, yeah. So the audiobook I've been listening to, and I'm enjoying it. And I'm listening with an ear without critic, right? So I'm not trying to critique it. I'm just trying to feel it, and you know, not as me, but as someone else. And so it's been a pretty cool experience for sure. You know, and it's just another really cool thing I can, you know, say that I did. Like, I've accomplished this, and you know, writing books is really hard. There's a quote where, you know, someone says, like, reading a book is a beautiful experience, but writing a book will make someone insane, right? And I can attest to that. I've literally lost my mind writing books. It's so difficult, but at the same time, like, I can't tell you there's a more rewarding feeling when you finish that thing, and then all of a sudden you're like, I wrote this, you know, and you know, there's part of me that would love to go back to some of my teachers from even elementary that inspired me and told me I could do these great things, and go and just be like, this is for you, because you are part of this.
Why don't you do that?
I have one teacher that I talk about in the first book, and he lives in Brazil now. Okay. So he actually bought my book, because you can get it in Amazon Brazil, which is so cool. And so him and I have chatted back and forth, and I'm like, if you ever come to Winnipeg, like, let me know. We're you're getting together. Like, his name is Mr. Burnett, Mr. B, and he was like a Juno award-winning recorder for children's music and stuff, and just like coolest dude ever. Like, cool. He was by far, like, I learned more from that guy in grade 5 than I did with every other teachers I've ever had combined.
I have one of those too.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I don't.
No.
I hated my teachers.
Yeah,
I've got one. I'll never forget. I still talk to her.
I mean, I have amazing. One that I never forget. She just helped me cheat during tests. So.
Yeah, well, that's always good to have one of those in your back pocket
but
too.
She did teach me that, because I told her, I was like, I'm never going to be a chemist, and I don't need to know chemistry. She's like, all right, fuck it.
People appreciate the fact that you're genuine and authentic. Just be yourself. Like, I complimented Justin Lamuda from Rainy Day Forge. He put his YouTube video out, and I've seen every other video he's done, but this one was different. And I reached out to him, and then when he answered, he said that he was just being himself.
Guys, listen up. You know what makes life better? Great knives. But not just any knives, custom knives. Need a knife that'll handle your outdoor adventures? Or a kitchen knife sharp enough to make you feel like a pro? Check out Rainy Day Forge. Crafted right here in Winnipeg. Get yours today at rainydayforge.ca.
It's captivating. Why? Because he's being himself. There we go.
This show is brought to you by our new sponsor, Stoke Screen Printing. Are you looking to make a statement with custom clothing? Stoke Screen Printing is Winnipeg's go-to print shop, and they will bring your vision to life. Whether you need bold screen printing or crisp digital prints or high-quality embroidery or even eye-catching stickers, they've got you covered. Their friendly, knowledgeable staff will walk you through the process and ensure top-tier results with great turnaround times. Now, whether you're looking for a single t-shirt or thousands of pieces for your band, business, or event, or even podcast, they will handle it all at fantastic prices. And then here's an added bonus. If you're a local Winnipeg band, you will get another 10% off from your order. If you're looking for quality, speed, and great service, contact Stoke Screen Printing today and stay stoked.
From their humble roots in kitchens and music venues all over Winnipeg, the creators of Intergalactic Sauces have turned their passion project into a line of must-have condiments for flavor and heat lovers everywhere. getting their start selling tacos to hungry concert goers at local underground music festivals, the Intergalactic crew has stayed true to its DIY rock and roll aesthetic. Every delicious bottle is a carefully designed collaboration with indie designers, printers, and a bit of inspiration from the cosmos. Whether it's a limited run or one of Intergalactic's core flavors, whether you want to add a bit of zip to a meal or blow your head off with heat, there's a sauce for everyone. Go to intergalacticsauces.com and get your sauce today.
It's funny when we come in to do these shows, I don't really plan.
Right.
I don't like to plan what we do on these shows, and when we have guests, I want to know a little bit about them. I want whatever, but like, I'm not like the guy who, okay, I read both your books before the interview, and now I want to talk to you about it. Like, this is free-form conversation. This is just, I learned a little bit about you, and I want the show to be me reacting to my first interaction with you together.
Yep.
When we have people on that I know, it's a little bit different, but you've had a long journey, and you figured out a lot about yourself through your writing 2 books, almost dying multiple times, all the positive and negative, your journey, your whole story.
Right.
You spend a lot of your effort and time now focused on others and helping other people, and that's kind of, we talked just for a couple of minutes before the show, and like everything you do is so focused on sharing something you've learned through your process with other people. Through that process of doing that, and like now you're focused so much on that, how much have you learned from not just your own journey, but how much have you learned since starting to help and hear other people's journeys? Has that impacted the way you've adapted to helping people with theirs?
Yeah, that's a great question.
It's a lot of a question.
It's a lot, but you know, I can tell you first and foremost, there is nothing more rewarding than helping other people when you want to help yourself. And you know, like I said, I wrote those books for myself originally, and it's a very cathartic and therapeutic process, obviously, and then knowing that they are helping other people, and then I get into rooms and discuss them or talk about, you know, my philosophies and different things and how they can help people, has really humbled me for sure. I had a really big ego problem for a long time, and you know, this is one of the most strongest healing components of this journey for me has been humility. And you know, when you're really insecure, you put on a big show and a big ego, and that was me for a long time. And so, you know, stripping myself down and being as vulnerable as I can and sharing my weakest moments as strengths now for people to relate to and learn and grow from and heal from, it's an ongoing pattern and like rejuvenation and recycling of positivity. Because, you know, I go into a school and talk to kids, and they ask me the craziest questions because they're kids, you know, and it's just so funny to me and so beautiful, you know,
so clear and innocent.
Yeah,
we talked about this when we had your son on the show.
Yeah, I saw. Yeah, he was great.
Yeah,
he was great.
Yeah, when you say kids, how old do you like visit with older kids?
Usually when I go into schools, it's junior high or high schools or university stuff as well. And you know, there's this beautiful relationship that I have with myself that I get to share with others now. And I didn't have a relationship with myself for my entire life, you know, and that is, it's just so incredible to, like, when you know yourself and you are yourself and you're no longer wearing the masks and you're no longer hiding and running and deceiving and lying and all the things that I did before. It's such just a wonderful, beautiful feeling to know that I can just be who I am now, and that inspires people. And the more honest and raw and vulnerable I am in my, you know, descriptions or in my details or whatever I put out for people, the more connection happens. And that connection is so strong because I feel that most people that are depressed are very disconnected from themselves. Same with anxiety. I mean, depression and anxiety are basically the same thing. One is just the lack of control of the future. One is the past controlling where you are now, right? And making bad decisions based on those things that don't allow you to be powerful in the moment.
Sure, I never looked at it that way. That's like very well put.
Yeah. And well, it's something I realized about myself, right? So creating this really, I talk about power a lot with people, or being powerful, and people assume that means, like I can lift 400 pounds, or I can smash through a building, or nothing hurts me.
Yeah.
And that's not true power. Power is something is where we create opportunity for ourselves to be able to be real, truthful, and raw, and that power creates peace, right? And so the biggest another thing that I really get from sharing things with people, and then them sharing their stories back with me, is it continues to grow that pond of peace, and it's okay to have ripples in it, and it's okay to have different things, and sometimes it's clear and I can see a perfect reflection, and other times there's some winds blowing on it and I can't see anything. But the more people I help, the more people help me. And so it's a very symbiotic relationship of healing. And I'm incredibly fortunate, but at the same time, I worked my ass off to get to this spot, where I am, and I'll continue to do it to the day I die. So I've dedicated my life's mission and purpose is to continue this fight to help end the stigma surrounding mental health, especially men's mental health, because we were raised on boys don't cry. We were raised on,
suck it up.
Suck it up. You don't, if you don't have emotions. And so I want to challenge that. I know what I look like, and I know that can be very influential for other men to see a guy that looks like me, a bigger dude with tattoos that looks like a tough dude, and then all of a sudden I'm crying on stage in front of a bunch of other men because it's real.
Yeah.
I've talked about my dad and broken down into tears in the middle of a talk in front of kids or in front of adults. I don't care. Yeah. And because people need to see that, because that's what this is all about.
It's real. Yeah,
well, that's the human experience. Like, that's a true experience.
Yeah.
That's honesty at its core.
Well, holding that in can be so destructive.
Well, of course.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's and that's why same thing. I have some coworkers that would never show their emotions, and and they're the ones that are like, you little bitch, or whatever. But I'm like, okay, I don't care. This is who I am. I express my emotions certain ways, and this is who I am.
Well, and all we can do is create space and hold space for people, that each other and other men and just anybody in general. But if we're focused on men, all we can do is hold space for men to feel like if they're ready to do that, they can.
Yeah.
Well, and at the end of the day, whether it's our show or your books, I really hope that even those tough men that are not willing to show emotions, I really hope they listen and they take something out of this.
They do for sure. They do for sure.
Because at least maybe, even if they're not going to show their emotions, at least they make some sort of peace with themselves.
Truth and honesty is hard to deny.
Yeah.
You have to work to push it away.
Yeah. Very true.
It's not natural. It doesn't feel natural.
Yeah.
And so what we do here, we try and make as natural and truthful as we can. Yeah. And that spreads. Truth spreads.
Yeah. Well, and so also kind of just touching on your question, or a follow through, is that how is it easier for you to now kind of deal with your own problems, because the problems don't go away.
Correct.
Because you're a mental health advocate, is it easier for you to now kind of attack those negative feelings and deal with them easier? That now that you've done the hard work that you've done to others, you still have to take care of yourself.
Yeah. Well, I put all that hard work in on myself first, and because I needed to lead by example, right? It's like what we're talking about. You're just saying these conversations work because they're honest and they're not scripted, and they're so people resonate with that because they can connect to it. You can't deny the truth.
Yep.
And so because of the fact that I put all that hard work in originally on myself, and now I'm able to, sort of do this waterfall effect and help other people. Like I said earlier, it keeps me humble, but what it does is it keeps me in check, and it keeps me fresh. And so, as an example, I'm going and talking into treatment centers, recovery centers, and trying to offer hope to people that are in a very dark, lonely place. Yep. And so, I stopped drinking alcohol almost 4 years ago, and drugs 5 years ago now, maybe 6. And, because I didn't want to go in there and not be real for them, and for myself. And I mean, I had a definite problem, and I needed to fix it, because I will say for me that, not drinking alcohol anymore has been probably one of the most fundamental, successful touchstones in my recovery for sure. But that's me. I'm not saying that for anybody else. So, but again, it comes down to like I spoke about earlier, is momentum. And so because I'm helping others, I'm still working on myself every time. And I'm talking a lot of times about myself. I'm talking about my story, or I'm talking about this is what I did to get over this. And it continually gets this loop of refreshment, right? So it's revitalization, rejuvenation, recalibration, all the fun words. And I have days, man, where I went through a little bit of a little while ago. Some circumstances in life, like you said, they're always going to come and sucker punch us out of nowhere. And I found myself getting really negative and cynical and pissy about everything. And, I had a couple days and I just was like, in the same thing. I just had to keep checking in with myself. And then I started writing out my, the feelings, but the facts as well. And like cross-referencing them and going like, okay, I'm blowing this out of proportion. I'm telling myself a story that isn't true, all the things. And so I'm not immune to, challenges and that, but I can say that I have healed myself from depression and anxiety, but it is an ongoing process. It never ends, it never ends. And so the work has to remain constant. And I believe, and to wrap it up about the question, is I think it's a true gift that I get to help other people, because it does continually, it's self-therapy, right? Every time I'm out there doing that.
It gives cause for you to keep yourself in check.
Sure, and it's my purpose.
Yeah, you're not going to go lie to people. So
no.
Well, it's a weird, practice what you preach in a simple way. Like that's a really simple way to put it, but like you kind of have to.
Well, I had this conversation with Tim just before you came here that, like I don't necessarily consider ourselves mental health advocates, but in a small way, maybe, I'm very happy to be there for my friend, coworker, neighbor, doesn't matter, to listen and be that support and maybe just give them like a voice of reason. But then when it hits me right now, I'm just like,
comes to ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
So you made a good point. Like you said, I take care of my own first, and then I go. And so,
and I used to say
I would just say, honestly, I don't do that.
Right.
Yeah.
It's easy for me to sit here and hear yours, and I want to, and I genuinely want to,
and you care,
I care so much. But like, probably one of the last people I do focus that same amount of energy and effort on is me. I don't do that.
And most,
can you comment on that?
Yeah, like I mean, that's probably one of the most common factors in mental health challenges. Because we can. I present it like this. So your friend is going through something awful. We'll say they're going through a divorce. They're a little bit out of sorts. You can tell they've been isolating. They're depressed. They're talking about suicide. You would do anything you can to help that person. You would do anything you can to help them. I'd be like, I'll come to your house. I'll stay at your house. You want to stay at my house, man?
Anything.
Like, I'll do anything. I will sit there and I'll cry with you. I don't care. Like, what do you need, man? I will do it. And then if you had a conversation, you would offer endless options.
Yeah.
Right? Now, the crazy thing is that I would boldly estimate that probably 90% of people that have mental health challenges, if not more, will never do that for themselves.
Yeah.
And so I learned to become my best friend, and it was not easy to do. And I did it through a series of exercises and processes where I would write out, I'd say, why would I want to be my friend? And I'd write out all the positives and all the negatives. And in the beginning, when I did this, there was like maybe 10 positives and like 15 pages of negatives why I wouldn't want to be my friend. Now it's completely the script is flipped, right? Totally, right? And so through like a different sort of soul searching and very fact-based therapeutic strategies that I implemented, and it just kind of came to me. I just constantly kept writing these things out until I was able to start taking like one negative and replacing it with two positives or whatever it was. And the biggest factor that I think contributes to this is our internal dialogue. And, often we create a dialogue for ourselves within ourselves where, I always fuck things up, or, you know what, I'm not as smart as that person.
Down,
And we constantly like remind ourselves that we're not good enough and that we aren't all these things that we And it's horrible. And I did this for so long, and so I had to really work on my internal dialogue. And when I started being able to support myself and talk to myself, and I'm out there, man. So I'm like doing like, chants in the mirror, and doing karate punches and like screaming, it's 5:30 in the morning that I'm okay and I can do this and I believe in myself, and then like my neighbor's like, what's going on with you, but I don't care. And so, but I had to go that far to break through this, this horrible relationship I had with myself. And so I think that most people that are really challenged with mental health, it's sad to say, but they have a very poor support network within themselves for themselves. And so I often challenge people when I talk to them. I said, okay, so the example I gave you, what would you say to that person? And then now I say, okay, so now write down what you would say to you in that situation. And it's like one sentence or maybe a couple words, whereas if you were to write it down about what you would do to support your best friend, it would be pages. You could write a book on it. And so it's really important that people learn to support themselves and then become friends with yourself, and it's easier said than done, because we've also spent a lifetime of listening to people beat us down and you're not good enough, or this happened, or this broke our heart, and so this I'm jaded because of this, and I'm scarred and hurt because of this, and all the different things. And that's what life is all about. And how we talk to ourselves about it is awful. Like, it really is. If you were to, again, take a moral inventory or whatever and look at how you treat yourself inside, most people are going to be pretty unhappy with the result. And so it's not something that happens like this. It's something that happens over time. It's step by step, one thing at a time. Like, today I'm going to work on how I talk to myself. I'm going to set myself up in the morning. I'm going to win this day by winning the first, 5-10 minutes of the day with positive talk in my mind about who I am, and what I can accomplish. And it sounds corny to some people. I don't fucking care. It works. If it works for me, it can work for anybody, because I have a brain that is capable of stripping anything away to make it not make sense, so I don't have to do it. Like, I'm the king of that, or I was. And reversing that and doing it the other way has been the most life-changing thing in the world. But it takes a tremendous amount of work, dedication, and consistency. And but that's my take on it, right? Like, I truly believe that
it's like becoming a butterfly, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's all that work that goes into it.
Well, it's true, right? Nobody really knows how much happens before the butterfly emerges. And it's arduous battle from the day that thing is an egg till it becomes a butterfly. And like I said, even when you do become the butterfly, it doesn't mean that life, you get to fly and soar and see things differently, but you still have another job, right? You have to continue your life's purpose and pollinate the gardens of life, or and help other people and all the different things, right? Metaphorically, we can talk, but definitely one of the things that I try to share the most to help people is build that relationship with yourself first, and then helping others come second, and then they work together symbiotically or synchronously or whatever you want to call it, and then you're able to really get good work done on yourself and with other people.
That's great insights, man.
Thanks.
So one of your reels I really love, that's about talking about nature. That you're really out there in the nature, taking in the energy. And just a couple of years ago, when I went back home to Slovakia, I met up with my buddy that's lives in England, but we managed to align our schedules, and he was there for a week. And he's become very aware of his life, what he needed. He was going through lots of depression. And shout out to Snoopy. I told him, I'm going to mention his name.
All right.
And but he was like, hey man, I've been doing lots of meditation, a lot of work on myself, and he talked about his the third eye opening and looking at the world in a different way, completely different way. And so went on this hike with my son, him, and myself. And he's like, hey, I'm just going to take my shoes off and going to hug some trees. Don't think I'm a weirdo, you know?
No, I love it.
And I was like, no, dude, I'm curious, because I was raised as a Christian, but I don't believe in that specific belief.
Theology, yeah.
But I do believe in the higher power and energy exchange.
Sure.
And so I'm like, dude, just tell me what to do. I might look stupid too, or I might feel stupid in my own reflection, but it was such a great full day. We were in the forest, and then he's like, look, you can kind of look into the sun through the leaves and take those rays in.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Hug the tree, and I was so I'm getting goosebumps right now just thinking about that moment. So it's amazing that you do that, and I think more people need to talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a beautiful day to me. I absolutely, my father instilled a love of nature from when I was a young boy with me, and we were always camping and hiking, and my dad was a pretty bad alcoholic and a bit of a violent guy when I was younger. And when he got sober when I was 11, things really started to change. And we were, even before that, though, we'd still go out to Russian River and go camping and hiking and all these things. And, he always taught me never to hurt animals, to study them and draw them. And so growing up, I had this fascination with nature. And we were pretty poor, so I didn't have a lot of toys. But my dad at one point was a door-to-door encyclopedia salesman. So I had access to these encyclopedias, and I would memorize them as a kid. And then there's one that came out that was all about animals, and that was my jam. I was in this thing, and I'd draw these animals and fantasize about seeing them in nature. And so growing up, I always was called to nature, always. And doesn't matter where I've been in my life, I always try to find waterfalls or places I can catch frogs or butterflies, or just sit in flowers and plants. And but as far as my journey with mental health, nature-based healing and ecotherapy have been some of the greatest contributors for sure. I will go spend as much time as I can in a forest. I don't care what season it is. And I talk about it in both of my books. And, there's just so much power in sitting in the middle of a forest, and your phone is not there. You left it in the car. You don't need to take pictures of yourself being there. And you just zone out and let nature's symphony take over your mind. The birds in the background, the rustling of leaves, the trees creaking a little bit, the grass flowing. And these are primordial. They take over our primordial instincts in our mind, right? Because this is stuff that we are gotten away from with technology. And nature has this beautiful way of pulling us back into ourselves and reconnecting us with who we are and what we're meant to do. And so, I can just sit there, and I love, I'm a bird nerd. I mean, I love all animals. I'm crazy. People either love or hate me if they're on a hike and I walk by, because I'm like, oh, that's a trailing verbena right there. It's actually an invasive species, and I'm like, oh, that's the six-striped, ground squirrel there. That's a Richardson ground squirrel. Yeah. And, but I have this beautiful thing in life now because I work with kids, and I do ecotherapy with kids, and I take them in large groups out into, Birds Hill Park is my place. I love it there. And I take these kids out, and I teach them about the land, and I teach them about plants and flowers and butterflies and the different things. And I get them to understand and be interested in it because of my passion. And it's like we were talking about, this conversations work because they're truthful and honest. And when your passion is truthful and honest, people feel that, and they want to be a part of it, even if they're kids or adults. And it's funny, I'll have a lot of other staff with me that work with the kids, and they'll tell me how much the kids loved it, and then they tell me, they're like, I needed this so badly. Nice. Thank you. Yeah. And I'm like, well, I didn't really do anything. They're like, yeah, but you got me out here just listening to you talk, about red squirrels versus gray squirrels, and all the things that most humans just take for granted. And that's the thing. I find nature is a picture show in nature. It's of miracles. It's just all these miracles unfolding, and there's so much healing value in that. You sit by a body of moving water.
Oh God, yeah.
Just the sound of it alone it refreshes the mind. And there's these things, if you get by a waterfall or powerful ocean or even a powerful river, there's these things called ions that are released by moving water. And in the world of ions, you actually want a negative ion. And what it does is this gets breathed into our body and immediately goes into our bloodstream, and it elevates our serotonin levels instantly. And that's why people are so much happier in mountains and around the oceans and beaches and around water, is because these things are like, this is nature giving you antidepressants. Like, just breathe it in and you are going to feel better. Look at it. Like when you look at a waterfall, it is the same thing over and over, but our brains, their job is to understand patterns. And so a waterfall is an ever-changing pattern. So it's almost like this hypnotic, beautiful thing that comes over, combined with, you can feel the vapor, you can hear the roar of it. So again, it's just tackling all these primordial senses in the mind. And we've gotten so far away from that. And my job is to bring, like I said earlier, I work with kids, and my job is to influence them in such a positive way and bring them back to nature, bring them back to the land, and to things. And to have like this guy, just lose his mind about some species of butterfly that I find, or a little gray tree frog or something, or something, and show so much excitement about it and share it. I know these kids were going to remember this. They might not right now, but like 10 years later, they're going to be somewhere, and all of a sudden they're going to remember this big tattooed dude that was like chasing this frog and wouldn't stop till he caught it, so he could show the under orange legs of it and how cool it is, or like, and but that's who I am, and it's all because of my father, right? And I can't, like, in this book, there's so much nature-based healing, ecotherapy strategies in there, because it just gets us away from the phone. It gets us away from the computer. It gets us away from our problems. Yeah. And I do this in the winter. I go out and I'll sit in the cold and do some cold therapy as long as I can, and then just have a fire and sit there, or in the rain. I don't care. Like, spring, you watch, nature start to come back, and summer, of course, is the best. And it's such a powerful healing tool, and it's free. Yeah, like you can go to a park and do this. Like you can go to Assiniboine Park. There's trails that go along the river. They're beautiful, and you can go sit in the field and just lie back and look at the clouds and imagine, and use your brain like your kid. And these things help you heal. They help you become better. They help create positivity in your mind, because you're stripping away all the shit that disconnects you from you.
100%. Yeah. That's why we love going out camping, and just because we just forget about everyday life, and we're out there in the nature, and even if you're not going for a walk, we're just sitting.
Doesn't matter.
We can hear the wind, we can hear the leaves move around, and
I always say relax. I hate it, but I actually always feel better when I do it.
Oh yeah,
I like golfing. Like I like being outside on a golf course, but which there's plenty to see and plenty to enjoy.
You're out there, like
plenty to piss me off, but no. But I always do. If I go to the cabin for 2 days, I feel recharged, way better than I would have ever felt otherwise.
Yeah,
and for no other reason than when you're there, you just go outside.
Yeah, you chop wood, you have a fire. Yeah. You breathe better air. It's surrounded by trees.
You slow down, you cook better food, you eat, you put more intention into everything you do.
Yep.
And that, to me, is always, that's the value for me when I do those things, is just you do it with more intention.
Yeah, and that's purpose.
100%.
Okay, so he has to challenge us with something.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
like, separate or the same?
Whatever you want to do. I'll thank you for taking time to be here. We really do appreciate it. Yeah. I say it every show, but I mean it every fucking time. I'm just so grateful for everyone who sits in that spot.
Thank you.
And decides and chooses with their time to be a part of what we choose to use our time for. And I'm always so grateful for that. So sincerely, thank you for being here.
As a thank you,
it's been a pleasure.
A little mug for you.
Oh, thanks.
It's been a real pleasure. We've been waiting a few months to try and find time to do this. I've had all these friends I have that you have that have told me, like, oh man, you wait till you have this guy on, and blah blah. And it's just such a refreshing thing to hear your story, and I'm glad we spent a lot of this time focused on the things that you are doing good for yourself. And some of the shows we do, they're dark and they're really heavy, and it's because that's what needs to come out from people. But I'm so glad you were able to just. You've come from something, people can read about that if they want to.
Yeah.
But I'm so happy that you've come through that, and you've been able to sit here and share with us all the amazing things that you've done despite the things that have tried to take you out. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Now I'll take my stupid comment at the beginning, and I'm going to have to live with the result of this. So what? And it's not actually a negative thing. This is a good thing.
Yeah. Well, first, I just want to say I'm incredibly grateful to be here. Any opportunity I get to get my story out there and my insights out there. And, I always say if one person that watches this something happens that is going to help them, then I've done my job. And that like when I was talking earlier about, you know, mental health and the purpose of it and what I do, and we kind of got sidetracked with men's mental health, but you know, I dedicate my life to this for a reason, to help kids, to help women, men, I don't care who it is. Yep. Every person has a level of mental health, just like physical health, and there's ways that we can improve it, and that's my job, is to do that till the day I die. My last breath, I'll still be saying something regarding it for sure, and that's a promise I made to myself. Thank you for this mug. It's very nice. I like it very much. I've seen them. I think I just saw you guys had a little contest thing going or whatever.
Yeah, it's still ongoing.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. Okay, so a challenge for you. So what I'm going to ask both of you is going to be the same thing, so that you can compare your notes with each other.
Okay.
And then share them with me by, like, you can send me a video or a picture. So I want you to take a moral inventory, because you enjoyed that terminology so much. What I want you to do is, on a piece of paper, I want you to write out all the things that you think are holding you back from improving your mental health, and then I want you to write the counter thing to that of what you think you could do to better it.
Oh, fuck.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like it.
And I'm holding you guys accountable.
Okay.
What's the timeline? I need a deadline. I do really good with
4
deadlines.
o'clock today. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Yeah, you're like, fail.
20 minutes ago.
Yeah. I'll give you guys a week.
Okay.
That's pretty fair, I think.
I think that's reasonable.
Good,
It would probably take you anywhere between half an hour to an hour to do it, really, like, honestly.
Take what it takes.
Yep. And then I'll follow up with you guys, and you know, maybe on one of your next recordings or whatever, you can, if you're comfortable, talk about it.
Of course.
Yeah,
you know,
we'll definitely bring it up. Yeah.
And,
I love that.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thanks so much, man. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, this was great.
Thank you. And just, if you want, where can people follow you?
Website is jasontylermclean.com. So I have a bio, books, and a connect page on there. And so I do a lot of mental health workshop sessions, keynote speaking, all that different things, so that you can contact me there. The email is info@jasontylermclean.com. Probably Instagram's the most common social I use, so that's Jason Tyler McLean. And the books are available on Amazon Kindle, and then the Monarch Butterfly Effect is available on Audible, iTunes, and Amazon as well. I do try to message people back, as you know, there's been times where I get thousands of messages in a month. There's been times where I get 12, right? So depending, right now it's gotten a lot busier for me because of the new book, and I've been just like running like a wild man right now, like speaking places. I just implemented my transformation triangle, which is something you guys are going to love. It's in the book there, into some classrooms about helping these kids with their self-discipline, self-respect, and self-love, and all these things. So, but I'm glad this worked out the way it did for the timing, because it's like the perfect time. Obviously, that's why it worked.
Good.
And I'd love to be back on here as a guest, maybe in a couple months. But like I said, we'll touch base after you guys complete your tasks at hand.
For sure.
I like it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome, man. It's great meeting you guys. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of The Quiet Riot Show. We want to give a big shout out to our sponsors for making this show possible. And of course, thank you, our amazing listeners, for your support. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We're at Quiet Riot Show on all platforms. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you can watch full episodes of the podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please rate and review us wherever you're listening. It really helps us grow and reach more listeners like you. We'd also love to hear from you. Have questions, suggestions, or thoughts about the show? Drop us an email at quietriot@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time on The Quiet Riot Show.